What's up, everyone? Omi from CodeLab here, and welcome to the first video in our series on React Native. So, quick note, we will be working inside of the React Native folder within the GitHub repo for all of our bootcamp code. So before we hop into things, let's talk a little bit quickly about what React Native is. So React Native is an open source cross-platform mobile development framework that was created by Facebook, now known as Meta. And it's basically a way that makes it very simple to write a mobile app for both iOS and Android devices at the same time using just one programming language. So typically, if you've ever tried to develop an Android or an iOS app in the past, if you wanted it to work on both platforms, you'd have to write two separate apps basically because both OSs allow for different programming languages to be used, and they have different APIs to interface with your system. So if you want to write an Android app, you need to learn a language like Java or Kotlin and then the Android API. Or for iOS, you have to learn the iOS API and learn a language like Swift or Objective-C. But React Native is one of several new, much more modern cross-platform mobile development frameworks, which allow you to, in one language, write your code out, and then they will take care of the work underneath the hood to then compile and transpile your code down to those native languages using those native APIs that you never have to worry or learn about any of that kind of stuff. And it's also great because if you know React Native is built pretty much just like React, built by the same company, uses the same syntax for the most part. And while there are many different bits and pieces that we'll kind of go through slowly here, the important thing to know is that if you know React, it's very quick to be able to pick up React Native because it uses the same general syntax and structure. So let's kind of hop right into things here. And actually, before we do, a quick note, this will be a bit of a shorter video series. And that's mainly because React Native has very good documentation. A lot of the languages and frameworks that I've taught in the past, the documentation might be spotty or make certain assumptions that you know certain things that you might not actually know. But React Native, their documentation, it's very good. It's very thorough. And it explains things from a point of view of you kind of knowing React and just being able to hop right in from there. So for that reason, we're actually going to be referencing the React Native documentation a lot throughout these videos. And we'll also link a few other things. And kind of as you're going and as you're trying to implement things throughout the course of your project, throughout the course of your CodeLab term, we really do highly recommend just directly referencing the React Native the React Native documentation because there's a lot of great information there and it's very easy to take from. So with that said, let's kind of get started on working on setting up everyone's environments for React Native. So it's very similar to running a regular React app to run a React Native app. However, we will need to download an extra CLI tool called Expo. So in short, Expo, you'll kind of see what it does, but it's basically a way for you to be able to actually run and host a React Native app on your local machine, because at the end of the day, this is a mobile app, not a web app like a regular React app would be. So we need an extra tool to kind of help make all those adjustments on the fly for us. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to type npm install -g expo-cli. I'm not going to run this command because it does take several minutes to run if it's your first time doing it. So you can kind of just pause the video and come back. I did type sudo because I'm on a Mac. But basically that will install the actual Expo command line interface onto your system. And once you have that installed, to create your own React Native project, it's pretty simple. You can just type Expo in it and then the name of what you want your project to be. So we can just call ours test project here, for example. And then now you'll see a few different templates that they offer for you to kind of get started on. We're just going to choose a blank template. We just want like a clean slate to be able to work from. So you're just going to click enter from there, and then it's going to take a few minutes to install all of the JavaScript dependencies if this is your first time doing it. And basically, once this is done, we'll be able to run our app, and we'll have a few different options that I'll kind of walk you guys through. So to kind of give like a brief overview, React Native, just like React, uses the concept of hot reloading. So every single time that you just press the save button to automatically save your code, it will automatically recompile it and re-render it on your screen for you. And that's actually true for both mobile apps and for if you're viewing it on the web. So to kind of show you guys what I mean by that, if we cd into our folder here, so if I change directory into test project, and then I type npm start, so the exact same command that you use for starting a regular React app, you'll notice we'll get a bunch of stuff popping up on our command line immediately. And I'm going to kind of expand this here so that you guys can see it better. And what we're basically looking at here, let's just kind of read down from the top. So out of all the stuff here, we see that we have some developer tools running on a local host port. We'll kind of get to that in a sec. We also have a big QR code here. And as it kind of says, you can scan this QR code with the Expo Go app on Android or using the camera app on your iOS device. And then there are some shortcuts right here. So just to kind of keep it simple, these shortcuts right here basically describe like different ways to view the app on your local machine. So if you have an Android simulator or an iOS simulator downloaded on your local computer or laptop, you can actually just run the app right there. So you can press any of these shortcuts and it will open it up for you. It's going to require a bit of first-time setup. And personally, I would kind of go against these methods just because there's sort of two better alternatives that we're going to walk you guys through. But if you do want to do this, all the more power to you. You can kind of press the shortcut and you can kind of get that process started for yourself. What we are going to be focusing on here is pressing W to open our app on the web. So if I press W right here, it's going to take a little bit of time, things are going to render, and then now it's going to load a localhost port on my computer. It's going to take a few seconds, and now we are going to see something that says open up app.js to start working on your app. So this is like the blank template, just kind of like filler page. So this is like an actual code that just rendered onto my page. And basically how we kind of got there is that you can actually preview your mobile app on a web localhost. And this is kind of the way that we recommend that you guys sort of debug and write your React Native code at first. Obviously, the UIs will be wildly different because you have like a massive monitor compared to a tiny size smartphone. But the general idea is that it's just a very easy and simple way without using any other devices or computing power to just see that your code at least loads. It's a great way to test stuff like APIs working, stuff like that. So that's why we kind of recommend this just for general development and like basic debugging. Also, you can show other people stuff very easily, stuff like that. Now, if you want to actually test stuff on mobile, so we highly recommend before you like push any code to production or you say that you're done working on a specific task or like a user story, that you actually test your app on a mobile phone. And the way that you can do that is basically using Expo. So this tool, Expo, they actually have their own mobile app that you can download both on Android and iOS. And from there, you can actually just open up your camera app and you can just scan this QR code and it will actually open up the app inside of Expo on your phone for you. And that will have the exact same hot reloading too. So if you have the app up open on your phone right next to you and you make some changes, you kind of edit some text on a page, that page will re-render on your device. Now, again, you should we highly recommend that you test stuff before you push it up to GitHub. But if you just want to do some basic development or debugging and you don't want to like have your phone right next to you or like drain its battery, you can kind of just read it directly from there. From the web page. Now, a very quick note that we do want to mention if you're going to use your mobile device is that your mobile device must be on the same Wi-Fi network as your computer. So you can't be on data on your phone and on Wi-Fi on your computer. They have to be on the same Wi-Fi network. And like we mentioned, you do have to install that Expo Go app. And if you are on iOS, the one quirk is that you have to use the camera app to scan this mobile QR code. But if you are on Android, you can just use the Expo Go app directly. It kind of has it built in. And something else I will note is that let's say you're worried about like losing this QR code or like scrolling all the way up, or you just feel like this command line interface is kind of weird. An alternative to using this is up here at the very, very top when the code first like is displayed. There's this localhost right here. So if you click on this guy, this localhost port that's made for you, this is rendered on my other monitor, but I can copy paste this over here. Basically, if you choose to come here, what you're going to see is basically the exact same thing, just like a prettier command line interface. So those button shortcuts, you actually can see them right here. So like I can click run in web browser to open up that same web browser that I had before. You can also click on this to run your device emulator, stuff like that. And you also see your console terminal sort of like reacting and saying that you've built something, stuff is changing here and there, stuff like that. So it's great for that if you don't like looking at the command line interface, but this offers no extra functionality than just looking at the command line, whichever method you personally prefer. But that is it for our first video, and I will hopefully see you all in the next one. Thank you.